When you're struggling with depression, you're very low energy and can't really bring yourself to do anything. Listen to this example from Jordan Peterson and see if you recognize yourself or anyone you know.
He still lived at home. He lived in his high school bedroom, and it was a complete bloody mess. He was living like a 12-year-old, a bad 12-year-old. And so I said, well, when was the last time that your carpet was vacuumed? And he said, well, sometimes my mother does it, but it's probably been months. I said, well, why don't you just bring the vacuum cleaner into the room and just vacuum your carpet? That'll be your task for this week. And I knew that was a bigger task than you might think, because he'd been in that room for like 18 years and it was a mess. And so cleaning it up at all was a big deal. He told me that he dragged that bloody vacuum cleaner into the doorway and left it 45 degrees across the doorway and then stepped over it for the whole week without actually using it.
This is from a podcast of Dr. Jordan Peterson and Dr. Andrew Huberman, and probably my favorite podcast episode of all time. They go on to explain what the expressed person who couldn't vacuum did to carry himself out of this state. And I reveal it at the end. But first, let's look at the different mechanisms, and maybe you can come up with a solution what the person who cannot vacuum because he is too depressed can do in this situation. Turns out one of the most important molecules here is dopamine. Listen to this brief explanation of Dr. Andrew Huberman and how he explains the dopamine circuit.
Let's say that I'm somebody who doesn't know what I'm working toward. I don't have a specific goal or question. By completing even what seem like menial tasks, like making myself a cup of coffee, drinking it, cleaning up completely, drying the cup and putting it back in the cupboard, what happens is even if you make that seemingly trivial goal the goal, in addition to making the kitchen look nicer, it completes a circuit. It closes the dopaminergic circuit. And when dopamine is released, and it will be, maybe not to the same extent as publishing a novel, but to some extent, dopamine amplifies our ability to think into the future, to make additional plans that are unrelated to what you just did. And it literally increases confidence and energy. Why? Well, for the following reason. We all think about caloric energy, but what most people are never taught, and if I had 10 things I could teach people, one of them would be adrenaline, epinephrine, is neural energy. It's your ability to get up and go. It's the thing that makes you jittery when you're a little nervous, but it's also what allows you to move forward, to go out for a run, to pursue any goal, cognitive or physical, etc. Epinephrine, which is also adrenaline, those are the same thing, is literally manufactured from the molecule dopamine. If you look at the biochemical cascade, dopamine is converted into adrenaline, which is the basis of all energy, all neural energy.
Isn't that incredible? So by setting and completing small goals, you trigger the release of dopamine inside of you, which in turn gives you more energy to do things. And this is something that Dr. Jordan Peterson has talked about and used with his clients for a long time. Let's have another listen to a short clip how Jordan Peterson explains what he tells his clients.
If you're lost, one of the things you can do is look around and see what direction you could take locally, is fix something. And I used to tell my clients, this is a very good thing to know. Find something that you could do that would make things better that you would do. And there's a humility in that too, because especially if you're in a low energy state, it's like, oh my God, I don't have enough energy to make dinner. It's like, do you have enough energy to put a fork on the table? And sometimes people are so depressed that that's really all they can do. It's like, can you take a small step forward, no matter how small that is?
And this is fascinating because I did this myself many years ago when I was a teenager full of self-hatred and fall into a very depressive state. And I also tell this to all of my clients. So one of my clients, and she always brings up this example by herself, because this is how I helped her to carry herself out of a depressive state. So she was extremely depressed, low energy, and couldn't do much. And there was this pile of dishes that just kept growing and growing and growing in her sink. And she couldn't get herself to do it or get herself to do much of anything. So what I told her was, hey, just clean one spoon. Right? Just clean one spoon, forget about the whole pile, just get going with something. And as we just learned, setting a small goal and then actually achieving it closes the dopamine circuit, which then causes dopamine to be released into your bloodstream, which then in turn gets converted into adrenaline, which is neuroenergy for you to use. Which also shows us why this common self-help advice of if you are depressed, do more things that you love, or achieve your goals, find your true purpose, doesn't help at all when you're in such a low state. Sure, at one point this is an important, great advice, but if you're at a very low state, this just puts more pressure onto you and is actually very, very bad. You should not set bigger goals. That's the exact issue. Set smaller goals. It's way out of your current realm to think about your purpose or set high goals for yourself. No. Set small goals, something that you actually can do and will do, because this closes the dopamine circuit and releases dopamine into your bloodstream. So think smaller, not bigger, when you're very, very depressed. So with knowing all of that, what is the advice you would give the guy who couldn't bring himself to vacuum his carpet? What would you tell him? What do you think was Jordan Peterson's advice? Let's have a quick listen to what he said.
Yeah, resistance, that was resistance from a psychoanalytic perspective, because he saw the monster and was paralyzed. And so what we did was we reduced the task. I said, look, you've got some drawers in your bureau. They're probably a mess. Do you have a sock drawer? Yes. It says, like, clean up one half of the sock drawer this week. That's it. Just organize it. So you just keep cutting the tasks down week by week until you find the threshold for positive movement forward. And then what's cool about that too is there's a Pareto principle issue associated with it. So if you can find out where the person can start, it isn't linear progress, it's exponential progress forward. And so even if they have to start at a micro level, it doesn't really matter because they get much better at it very, very rapidly as they accrue successes.
Yes, it's really that simple. Just break it down further until you find something that you can do. Of course, no one is saying just by doing that you can cure your depression, but it's a good start and it will help you more than you may think right now. So if you suffer with depression or know someone who is, think about minimal goals that you can set for yourself. It really does not matter how small the goals are. The only thing that matters is that you can set them and then actually complete them. And even if it's just the goal of getting out of bed that day, if you can do that, if you can complete that, amazing. You just completed a dopamine circuit and released more neuroenergy into your bloodstream. If you found this advice helpful or valuable, be sure to give the video a like. Remember, it doesn't matter what others think or say, especially not people who have never been depressed and have no idea about how depression actually works. If you want to start resolving deep emotional wounds inside of you on a subconscious level, wounds that are probably some of the causes of why you are struggling with depression, be sure to check out the video right over there, where I talk in depth about that.